Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be a commentator for the next few minutes, and today we're going to be talking about the Great Assyrian Empire. So let's look at some of their aspects for the Great Assyrian Empires. Here we're going to be starting with trade. So, as you can see, the Assyrians had connected places to gather different goods from different places, such as talc from Babylonia and tin from Afghanistan. Kayseri, it's located in the middle of Turkey. It was the major trading center for trading with places in Europe like Greece. Assyrians mainly focused on mining industry, which was very important. Anatolia had the main mining industry, mined gold, silver, and copper. Now let's look at cities. Let's look at cities now. Ashur. It was reported to be the first capital of the Assyrian Empire in 3000 BC. A temple of Ishtar was discovered here, which showed the development of religious architecture. Also, one of the earliest constructions of arches was found here. Capital cities changed every so often. At one point, Kalku, also called Nimrud, was the capital. Now, we're off to religion of Assyria. So, Assyria's religion was originated from Sumerian religion. They were using the same name and the same gods from the religion. However, this religion served an important role in the Assyrian society. The politics were based on the religion, such as the ziggurat was used as political administrative building. Ashur, the name of their main god, became the name of its capital. Later, one of the great kings had the name based on his name as Ashurbanipal. Assyrians' religion was affecting the entire empire. As the imperialism of Assyria led Assyria to the superpower of Mesopotamia, the religion had largely affected the entire Mesopotamia as well. Also, the Assyrian religion is even affecting the current religion, Christianity. The Bible states a lot about the Assyrian religion, even the Protestantism. The Assyrian religion affected the Bible so much in the Genesis. So now that we have seen this religion of Assyria, we're going to move to art. So, the Assyrian art and architecture cooperate each other in way they are developed each other. Art was usually used for decoration of buildings, such as ziggurat and the palaces. The artwork had the theme of legacy, religion, and the pride of Assyrian Empire, such as the victory of a battle. Often, the artworks were serving the role of the record. The main method of making artwork was carving on the surface. Carving on the surface had turned a bad body ratio in 9th BC. Also, the violence of the event were covered in the background. As the time goes, they got better body ratio, neater and shape and sharper shape, and the writing on the background was gone. In addition, in the Sennacherib age of Assyria, the sculpture started to include a lot of people. They also had the carving in the ground was used as the decoration of the door or the sculpture of the king. The sculpture was more focused on the details, not overall ratio of the artwork. There were sculptures such as Roaring Lion, God Nav, and Ashurbanipal II sculpture. Now that we have seen the art of Assyria, let's move on to architecture. So, Assyria had a strong base of architecture. As the imperialism of Assyria spreads, the architecture was rapidly evolved through 13th century to 10th century BC. As a result, Nineveh Castle was formed as a masterpiece in the new capital by King Ashurbanipal II. The buildings had the characteristics like symmetrical design, religious purpose, giant sculpture in the entrances and palace. Assyria did affect a lot of later Mesopotamian architecture design by affecting the Persian Empire. As Darius I was collecting the successful designs throughout the area, he collected the main characteristics of Assyrian architecture and made Persepolis, which is the main building of Persia in Darius I's time. Also, it was decorated by carvings of the wall, which was filled with content about the legacy of Darius I. So now that we have seen the architecture of Assyria, let's move on to the hierarchy structure. So, a hierarchy of Assyria. The king is responsible to make sure that his people were safe and has a large part of military that are trooping around to defend any threats. In addition, he is also responsible on creating architecture such as statues, substructures, military and wealth income. Scribes were below king, and they were second most important since they are responsible for writing books, keeping business records for the kings, etc. Merchants were below scribes, and they were considered as traders, and go around in Mesopotamia to trade other for goods. The artisans were very important to Assyria to develop the culture, and they were higher social hierarchy structure than farmers and slaves do, and they create clothes and pottery. Assyrians made sure that the people were encouraged to create their own music and poems to expand its culture. Musicians and poets were highly respected in Assyrian culture. Farmers were not only farming and collecting food. Assyrian farmers were encouraged to develop different food products. Slaves were the lowest in hierarchy system, and they would serve for higher hierarchy people such as kings, scribes, and they had no right for themselves at all. Viewing from an Assyrian structure, we can see some of technologies that they have developed iron weapons such as daggers, spears, and shields. Unlike most other civilizations, Assyrians were very well prepared for war. Some of the techniques the Assyrians built were ladders, wheels, and library, which has a great impact on today's civilizations. To begin with, ladders were occasionally used in military situations, such as climbing up in a wall and defending their base. Assyrians were also the first one to create a library, which all began when Assyrian kings started to collect plated tablets for educational purposes. With other civilizations were inspired by include Alexander the Great, who was a Persian, was inspired with the library, and lucky enough, he died before he could build his very own library. There is a social structure that the Assyrians have developed, where kings are on the top of the chain and slaves were the lowest in the chain. Each of them has individual tasks to be accomplished. Now that we have seen technology, let's see the law of Assyria. So, on the first tablet of laws, which is almost completely preserved, the woman is the center of concern. The second, which has 8 columns, deals with the property rights, while the third, which was written by a different hand, gives law dealings with slaves, livestock, and goods. Now that we have seen the laws of Assyria, let's move on to government. So the king was the head of the government, and the palace was the headquarters. Advisors consulted the omens before important decisions were made. Provinces and vassal cities were required to pay taxes and tributes in the form of food, goods, gold, labor, military supplies, and soldiers for the army. A network was built to speed up communication and mobilizing armies. That was the government of Assyria. Now let's move on to agriculture in Assyria. So, Assyria was located along the Tigris River in what is now the present-day northern Iraq. Along the river were located the farms. In the farms, lots of crops were grown, for example, barley, onions, flax, which is a type of wool, emmer, again, which is a type of grain. Major canals were built alongside these farms to prevent flooding and control the irrigations of the farm. Most of the population spent their lives farming and rebuilding canals, which had been knocked down because of the floods in the river. And also, Assyrians were masters at adaptations and innovations. Since they did not invent much stuff, most of the stuff that came in Assyria was stolen from other civilizations. Now let's look at a video which shows the military tactics of Assyria. So far, that was the most important thing in the Assyrian military. Now we're going to talk about the Assyrian military. The mere mention of Assyria shook all their opponents with fear, as their military strength was one to behold at that time. It had the most fearful army across Mesopotamia, and maybe even throughout the world during the mid-8th century. The army was mastered in siege warfare, had cavalry of 150,000 to 200,000 men, and a combat field army of 50,000 men who were highly skilled. The Assyrian army was not a single army, but a bunch of armies, with their own command systems and structures. Each army had its own customs and idiosyncrasies. So, another secret weapon used by the Assyrian military was propaganda. This secret weapon was often used against prisoners of war. The prisoners were brainwashed and the king insisted on strict discipline in the treatment. The troops were considered top of the line, and their archers were unbeatable during a battle. While other civilizations were stuck using bronze, the Assyrians had advanced to iron weapons and iron armor. Since iron was much stronger and lighter than bronze, it was much more effective during a battle, which proved to be very helpful for the Assyrians. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See ya.